It was the best of times. It was the worst of times. It was November 2025. November was the best month I've ever had in terms of analytics. In terms of reading, it may be the worst month I've ever had. Let's talk about it. You probably noticed you guys were seeing a lot more of me in November. That is because I had a goal. I had a goal to upload one video every day, 30 videos in 1 month. I have not done that before. And the results were really dang good. I think the algorithm has finally figured out the type of person that wants to watch me talk about books in a red cloak. So I think things are looking up for the channel. In December, I got big hopes for December. Will it be as good as November? Almost assuredly not, because I'm not uploading a video every day. The holidays are very busy for a father of two. But I do have some idea what type of content I'm going to be focusing on. One positive of uploading a YouTube video every day is that I see what you guys are interested in me talking about. If I have a good conversation underneath one of my YouTube shorts, that's a good sign that I should probably elaborate further in a long form video. So that is exciting. In December, we have a few top 10 videos planned because those perform well, and it is the end of the year. And when I upload videos again towards the end of next year, we can see how the lists change. Top 10 lists are all the rage, though I do find them exhausting to make. They take a lot of time to film. I get tired, I get distracted, and also, I don't want to just drown you guys in a bunch of top 10 videos, so I'm trying to space them out in the little time we have left in 2025. Numbers wise, on the analytics side, November was astounding. We passed several major milestones. 3,300 subscribers, we passed that number. Super excited about that. We passed 3,000 watch hours for 2025, which means the channel will be monetized as soon as it is done with its review. I'm super happy about that. I'm astounded. I'm amazed. I'm flabbergasted that there's enough of you guys out there that want to watch me talk about books that the channel has gotten over 3,000 watch hours. In terms of views, November got more views than every other month and every other year in the channel's history. Needless to say, I have a lot of things to be thankful for. I'm thankful for you guys for watching me talking to the camera about books and stories and all the things that I love. It's been a really positive experience, and I'm optimistic for the future. So numbers-wise, November was amazing. Reading-wise, November was very rough for me. I finished 3 things, all of which were difficult for me. Difficult for me to understand, difficult for me to push through. I read 1 novel, 1 short story, and I finished 1 comic book series. And I have mixed feelings about all of it. The first book I finished in November was Roger Zelazny's Lord of Light. I've heard a lot of good things about this book. A lot of people say it's an underrated hidden gem, and I see why. In terms of ideas and concepts and themes, Lord of Light is truly groundbreaking. It's very introspective, it's very thought-provoking. It makes you think a lot about desire and suffering and power and oppression and how we affect the course of history. But concepts alone do not make a good story. In terms of character work and pacing and plot and central message even, this book, I'm not sure it was a success. I really feel like Lord of Light could have been a multi-book series, and it still would have been hard to pull off. And I find Roger Zelazny's attempt at fitting this entire massive multi-lifetime epic into a single volume of less than 350 pages, it's admirable. It's amazing what he was able to do. But I'm not sure if he stuck the landing. I'm not sure if I agree with the central messages of this novel. It kind of combined an element of William Gibson's Neuromancer and Hermann Hesse's Siddhartha. These are 2 very different books. Essentially, it tells a story of Sam, who is leading a revolt, a war, a revolution against the gods that rule this world. And these gods are taking inspiration from the gods of the Hindu pantheon. This is techno-Hinduism in a science fiction cyberpunk setting. And there's a war and there's a battle. And there's Buddhism versus Hinduism as a central conflict of this story, which is very interesting because that's kind of how Buddhism formed in India. I can't imagine reading this book with no general idea about Hinduism. I had an advantage over all the other guys in my book club because I dated someone who was Hindu. She grew up in that tradition. So I was familiar with a lot of the ideas and concepts and things that the characters were discussing. But this book was already cumbersome and difficult to get through. If I had to constantly stop and look up these different Hindu ideas and ideologies and concepts, it would have been a very tiresome read. Roger Zelazny was able to pack in a lot of philosophy into this action adventure. It was cool watching our main character traverse through several lifetimes in his great conflict against the gods that are in power. But overall, a bit underwhelming. I'll be thinking about this book a lot. I do really like it. I don't want you guys to think I don't like it. I really liked it, but it was very convoluted. I don't know. The second work I finished in November is considered by many to be one of the greatest comics of all time. In fact, it has been labeled by many comic book readers to be the Lord of the Rings of comics, which is high praise indeed. I was very excited to read Bone by Jeff Smith. This is 55 issues, and I feel bad saying that it's not that good because it is just average. This series was sold to me as one of the great works of fiction. I've seen many booktubers talk about Bone and put it in their top 10 favorite books of all time. I had very high expectations, and what I got was an absolute slog. Maybe it would have been different if I was younger and I was reading this comic issue by issue for many years. Maybe I would have felt more of an attachment through it. But nothing happens. Out of the 55 issues, almost nothing happens for the first 40 issues. The plot moves at such a glacial pace, and the tone is so inconsistent. Some volumes and issues are very comedic, and the plot moves nowhere, and then it's very serious and epic. It's high fantasy with a bunch of humor, a bunch of side tangents. It follows three bones: phone bone, phony bone, smiley bone. They get lost in this hidden valley where there's an epic struggle between good and evil. There's chosen ones, rat creatures, dragons, conspiracies, a royal family, what have you. It's a high fantasy epic tale. I wasn't sure what type of story Smith was trying to tell. The artwork for Bone was astounding because it follows three characters, three bone people. They're like little easy to draw cartoons, but everyone else in the story is drawn in such a beautiful way. I loved the scenes of battle. I loved seeing the dragons and the monsters. That was really cool. I loved the artwork. Did I care for the bones? Phony Bone, I hate him. He's selfish. He's a schemer. He does so many stupid, irresponsible things, but he's supposed to be this genius character, and I found him so frustrating to follow. Phone Bone, who's different from Phony Bone, I liked him. Smiley Bone, your run-of-the-mill comedic character. Everyone else was very interesting. I loved following Thorn and her grandmother, Lucius. I loved the supporting cast of characters. But there were some character arcs that I feel like went absolutely nowhere. You read 55 issues, and some characters, they develop and then they regress. And it's like, why even put them in the story? They didn't really help the plot move forward because the plot doesn't move forward. The plot moves at such a glacial pace. So when you finish the story and so many characters are right back where they started, it really feels like I wasted a lot of time. At the best of times, Bone was very engaging and heartfelt, but at the worst of times, it was just a slog. It was frustrating. It was the type of humor that doesn't really resonate with me. I could not be more underwhelmed. It reads like a novel because it's so slow, but it's a picture book. Maybe comics just aren't for me. This won many awards. I'm obviously in the minority. So in conclusion, my overall feelings about Bone are slightly more positive than negative. It's almost a completely neutral reading experience for me. I think if it wasn't so highly touted, my expectations would not have been so high. And I think I would have had a slightly more positive experience. But if this is the Lord of the Rings of comics, maybe I'm just not a comic book person. The final story I finished in November is The Yellow Wallpaper by Charlotte Perkins Gilman. I really like this cosmic horror short story. Less than 40 pages. It's a thinker, a little ambiguous, all good things. This follows one woman as she descends into madness. She becomes obsessed with the yellow wallpaper of the room that she is staying in this vacation home, where she's supposed to be resting because she is suffering from some anxiety or depression. But that's not even the worst part. Mental illness is bad. But being married to someone who doesn't acknowledge what you're going through, who kind of tries to explain away what you're experiencing, is worse than being mentally ill. And the way this story depicted how you could be married to someone who thinks that just because they're more educated than you, they know what you're going through. So she's married to a doctor, and she's telling him what she's going through. And all he keeps saying is, you just need rest. I'm a doctor. Listen to me. And it's frustrating. It's kind of cool. Well, not cool. It's actually very much uncool. However, 100 years ago, people had the same problems of doctors. And the way this short story was able to depict that was very relatable, but also kind of sad because we're still dealing with that in the modern day. At least in America. I'm not sure how it is in other parts of the world, but in America, we don't like doctors and they don't listen to people and they're a little bit elitist sometimes. I could say that. My family's made up of doctors and lawyers and highly educated people. They make mistakes. I liked how the short story depicted that. It's a very interesting story about how, systems will fail people. I love how the ending's a bit ambiguous. I love wondering if the wallpaper actually had some powers about it or if it's just her mental illness getting worse. I really like The Yellow Wallpaper. Picking the book of the month is kind of difficult because I only finished one book. I finished a comic and a short story. So Lord of Light wins by default, but I'm not happy about it. But I just don't think a short story can win book of the month because it was like 33 pages. Books I started in November but did not finish: This Inevitable Ruin by Matt Dinniman and Wizard and Glass by Stephen King. I'm vlogging both of those reads at the same time, and you'll be seeing vlogs about those in mid-December. November 2025 was truly the best of times and the worst of times. Analytics-wise, good. Reading-wise, bad. How was your guys' November? What was the best book you read? What was the worst book you read? How were your holidays? What do you plan on reading in December? Has 2025 been a good year for you? It's been a great year for me. Answer all those questions, that whole smorgasbord of questions, in the comments below. And I'll talk to you guys next time.